Hi guys, today I'm going to read you one of my favorite books, Awful Auntie by David Williams. Now you can see here, this is a greenhouse. This big building is Saxby Hall. This is a garage. And this is the perimeter of the wall all around. This is a gate. And yeah. So let's get started. So I'll introduce all the characters to you, which is the young lady Stella, which lives in Saxby Hall. Sue, which used to be a chimney cleaner in Saxby Hall. The ancient servant of Saxby Hall, Gibbon. A mountain owl that Stella's auntie owns, which is called Wanger. And a detective called Strias, which is also a policeman. It was all a blur. At first there were only colours, then lines. Slowly through the haze of Stella's gaze, the room eventually took shape. The little girl realised she was lying in her own bed. Her bedroom was just one of countless in this vast country house. To her right side stood a wardrobe, on her left sat a tiny dressing table, framed by a tall window. Stella knew her bedroom as well as she knew her own face. Saxby Hall has always been her home. But somehow, at this moment, everything seemed strange. Outside there was not a sound. The house had never been this quiet before. All was silent. From her bed, Stella turned her head to look out of the window. All was white. Thick snow had fallen. It had covered everything within sight. The long sloping lawn, the huge deep lake, all the empty fields along the estate. Icicles hang from the branches of trees. Everything was frozen. The sun was nowhere to be seen. The sky was as pale as clay. It seemed to be not quite night, not quite day. It was early morning or late evening. The little girl had no idea. Stella felt as if she had been asleep forever. Was it days, months, years? Her mouth was as dry as a desert. Her body felt as heavy as a stone, as still as a statue. For a moment the little girl thought she might have been asleep and dreaming. Dreaming she was awake in her bedroom. Stella had experienced that dream before, and it was frightening, because try as she might, she couldn't move. And this at the same nightmare again, or something more sinister. To test whether she was asleep and dreaming, the girl thought she would try to move. Starting at the far end of her body, first she tried to waggle her little toe. If she was awake and thought about waggling her toe, it would just waggle. But try as she might, it wouldn't waggle or wiggle, or even woggle. One by one, she tried to move each toe on her left foot, and then each toe on her right. One by one, they all point blank refused to do anything. Feeling increasingly panicked, she tried to circle her ankles, before attempting to stretch her legs, then to bend her knees, and finally she concentrated as hard as she could on lifting her arms. All were impossible. It was as if she had been buried in sand from neck down. Beyond her bedroom door, Stella heard a sound. The house dated back centuries and had been passed through many generations of the Saxby family. It was so old that everything creaked, and so vast that every noise echoed down the endless labyrinth of corridors. Sometimes the young Stella believed that the house was haunted. A ghost stalked Saxby Hall in the dead of night. When she went to bed, the little girl was convinced she would hear someone or something moving behind her wall. Sometimes she would even hear a voice calling to her. Terrified, she would dash into her mother's and father's room and climb into bed with them. However, mother and father would hold Stella tight and tell her she was not to worry her pretty little head. All those little strange noises were just a clatter of pipes and the creaking of floorboards. Stella was not sure. Her eyes darted over to the huge oak panelled door of her bedroom. At waist height, there was a keyhole. Though she never locked the door and didn't even know where the key was. Most likely it had been lost for 100 years by some great-great-great-grandparent. One of those Saxby lords or ladies whose paintings were hung every few paces along the corridors, captured forever unsmiling in oils. The keyhole flickered light to dark. The little girl thought she saw the white of an eyeball staring at her through the hole before quickly disappearing out of the view. "Mama, is that you?" she cried out, hearing her own voice out loud. Stella knew this was no dream. On the other side of the corridor, an eerie silence lingered. Stella plucked the courage to speak again. "Who is it?" she pleaded. "Please?" The floorboards creaked outside. Someone or something had been spying on her through the keyhole. The handle turned. Slowly, she was pushed open. The bedroom was dark, but the hallway was light, so at first the girl could see was a silhouette. It was an outline of someone as wide as they were tall. Even though they were extremely wide, they still weren't particularly tall. The figure was wearing a tailored jacket and plus fours, those long bluey jorts that golfers sometimes wear. A deerstalker hat adorned the figure's head with the ear flaps unfluttering down. Jutting out from their mouth was a long, thick pipe. Soon pipes of sickly sweet tobacco smoke clouded the room. On one hand there was a thick leather glove. Perched on the glove was the unmistakable outline of an owl. Stella knew instantly who this person was. It was her awful Aunt Alberta. "Well, you have finally woken up, child," said Aunt Alberta. The woman's voice was rich and deep, like a boozy cake. She stepped out of the doorway and into her niece's bedroom, her large brown steel-toed captured boots climbing on the floorboards. Now in the half-light, Stella could make out the heavy tweed of her suit and the long sharp talons of the owl wrapped around the fingers of the glove. It was a great Bavarian mountain owl, the largest species of owl there was. In the villages of Barbia, these owls were known by locals as flying bears, on account to their startling size. The owl's name was Wanger. It was an unusual name for an unusual pet. But then Auntie Alberta was a highly unusual person. "How long have you been asleep, please, Auntie?" asked Stella. Aunt Bella took a long suck on her pipe and smiled. "Oh, just a few months, child." Chapter 2. Baby Vanishes. Oh, also, guys, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Let's see if we can get to 500 likes. Thanks, guys. Before we continue our story, I need to tell you a little more about Aunt Alberta and why she was so awful. This is Saxby family tree. As you can see from the family tree, Alberta was the eldest of the 3 children. She was the firstborn child of Lord and Lady Saxby, followed by her twin brothers Herbert and Chester. A dreadful fate befell Herbert, the firstborn twin, as a baby. As the oldest male child, Herbert was designed to take the title of Lord Saxby when his father eventually passed away. Herbert was designed to take the title of Lord Saxby when her father eventually passed away. When the title came riches too, the family home, Saxby Hall, and all the jewels and silver had been passed down the generations. The laws of inheritance ruled that the firstborn boy of the family was given everything. However, soon after Herbert was born, the most mysterious thing happened. The baby vanished in the dead of night. This doting mother had put him to bed in his cot, but when she came back in his nursing in the morning, he had simply disappeared. Racked with pain, she screamed the house down. Ah! Folk from the neighboring town and the villagers streamed out their houses to help search. They combed their surrounding countryside for the infant day and nights of weeks, but no trace of him was ever found. Alberta was 12 when her baby brother disappeared. Nothing in the house was ever the same again. It was not like just their little Herbert was gone. It was not knowing what had happened to him that hurt his parents the most. Of course, they still had Chester, Stella's father, but the pain of losing their beautiful baby boy never left them. The case became one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the age. Wild theories swirled around the baby's disappearance. The young Alberta swore she had heard howling outside in the lawn that night. The girl was convinced a wolf had taken her baby brother in the dead of night. However, no wolves were found within 100 miles of Saxby Hall. Soon this theory became just of one many. Some suppose that a visiting circus troupe had kidnapped Herbert and disguised him as a clown. Others believed that an infant had somehow climbed out of his cot and crawled out of the house. Most unlikely, all of this was a suspicion of some that the boy had been spirited away by a gang of evil elves. None of this wild speculation helped bring Herbert home. Years passed. Life went on. Though not for Herbert's mother and father, the night of their disappearance froze the Lord and Lady in time. They were never seen in public again. Putting on their happy faces became impossible. The sense of loss, the not knowing, it was unbearable. The Lord and Lady could barely sleep or eat. They roamed around Saxby Hall like ghosts. In the end, they were said to have died of broken hearts. You can see that's the mother and father crying. Chapter 3. A Beastly Child. With baby Herbert gone, Chester, Stella's father, became the heir. Growing up, Alberta was absolutely beastly to him. As a child, she would give her little brother a highly poisonous tarantula spider for Christmas. Collect, roast, and dust them with icing sugar, then give one to her younger brother to eat pretending it was a rock cake. Peg him to the washing line and let him dangle there all afternoon. Chop down a tree while he was climbing it. Play hide and seek with him. Alberta would let the boy hide and then she would probably go on holiday. Shove him in the lake when his back was turned feeding the ducks. Replace the candles on his birthday cake with sticks with dynamite. Swing him around the playroom by his ankles as fast as she could go, then let him go. Cut the brakes cables on his bicycle. Force feed him a bowl of live worms, saying it was special spaghetti. During a snowbite, cover cricket balls in ice and hurl them at him. Lock him in a wardrobe, then push him down the flight of stairs. Put earwings in his ears while he was sleeping so it could wake up screaming. Bury up his neck in sand at beach, then leave him there as the tide came in. Despite all this, Chester was always kind to his sister. When Lord and Lady Saxby died and eventually inherited Saxby Hall from his parents, he was determined to look after the old place as best as he could. The new Lord Saxby loved the house as much as his parents always had. But because Chester was by nature such a generous man, he gave the family's huge treasure trove of silver and jewels to his sister Alberta. Altogether, it was worth thousands and thousands of pounds. However, within a short while, the woman had lost it all. That's because Alberta had a dangerous obsession, tiddlywinkies. It was a very popular game at that time. Tiddlywinks was always played with a pot and different sized discs or winks. The aim was to use your large wink, named the squigger, to propel as many of the small winkers into the post as you could. From childhood, Alberta would force Chester to play with her, to stop her hurling the pot of winks across the room if she lost. Chester would always let her win. Alberta was not only a very bad loser, she was also a cheat. As a child, she created her own tiddlywinky moves, all of them completely against the rules. Wibble Scrump to eat your opponent's squidger, Gash Notch to bite your opponent's hand while they try to play, Kicker Knocker Glory, hiding all of your opponent's winks in your kickers, Boom Shakalak, to fire your winks into the pot with an air rifle, Wink Furno, to burn all your opponent's winks, Knee Thumper, to make all the tiddlywinkers table shake when it's your opponent's turn by bashing it with your knee, Snatcheroo, when your opponent's wink is in mind flight and in high trained bird of prey catches it in its bill, Sticky Wink, gluing your opponent's winks to the table, Gyno Pot, when your opponent is not looking, replace a pot with one that is much taller, making it impossible for them to fire any winks in, Pot, to break wind on your opponent's squidger, thus rendering it unusable for a short time. One Christmas, Chester bought his big sister the Tiddlywinkies rule books by Professor T. Wink. His hope was that together they would consult the rules, and a terrible cheating would cease. However, Alberta point and blank refused to even open the book. The Tiddlywinkles rulebook gathered dust on the shelf of the huge library of Saxby Hall. Ever since she was a child, Alberta was ridiculously competitive. She had to win. Again and again, and again. I am the best. B-E-E-S-T, she would chant. Her spelling was always atrocious. However, this aggressive desire to conquer everything else is what ended up costing her relatives dear. As soon as she got her hands on some of the Saxby family's fortune, thanks to Chester's kindness, she gambled it away. Alberta played the high-stakes Tiddlywinkies tables at the casinos of Monticello. Within a week, the woman had lost everything she had. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pounds. Next, she sneaked into her brother's study and pinched his checkbook. Forging his signature, Alberta secretly stole all the money out of Chester's bank account. Within days, she had lost her brother's money too, every last penny. The family was plunged into terrible debt, from which it was impossible to recover. As a result, Chester was forced to sell all the possessions he possibly could. Antiques, paintings, fur coats, even his beloved wife's diamond engagement ring. All went to auction houses so Lord Saxby could fight to keep the family home. A home that had been in the Saxby family for centuries. Like any great house, Saxby Hall had employed an army of staff to keep it running. A cook, a gardener, a nanny, a chaffner, and a platoon of maids. However, with all the money squandered by Alberta, They simply couldn't be paid anymore. The bank demanded they all be fired immediately. So with a heavy heart, Chester had to let them go. Except one, the ancient butler Gibbon. Lord Saxby tried to give Gibbon his notice a dozen times or more. However, the servant was so old, just a short of 100, that he became very deaf and blind. As a result, it was impossible to tell him to go. Even if you shouted right into his ear, the poor old man's soul couldn't hear a thing. Gibbon had worked the Saxby for generations. He had been in service for them for so long that he became part of the family. Chester had grown up with Gibbon, looking after him and loved him dearly, like an eccentric old uncle. Secretly, he was overjoyed that Gibbon stayed at the house, not least because he was sure the ancient butler had nowhere else to go. So Gibbon continued to roam Saxby Hall, carrying on his duties, though a totally topsy-turvy way. Gibbon would mow the carpet with a lawnmower, bring a child paid high with dirty socks and announce afternoon tea, my lord, iron the plants, water the sofa, bang bang in the middle of the night to announce dinner is served, serve a boiled billiards ball in an eggs cup at breakfast, polish the grass, boil your shoes, pick up the lampshade and say Saxby Hall, who is speaking please, as if it was a telephone, take the rug for a walk, put the chicken to roast in the boot of a Rolls Royce. Stella's mother and father worked tirelessly day and night to care of the house and grounds, but Saxby Hall was just too big for them. And eventually, it fell into disrepair, so they had a huge house that couldn't afford to heat or light, and an old Rolls Royce they could barely afford to run. Through this considerable charm, Chester, now Lord Saxby, just managed to keep the angry bank manager in London at bay. When Saxby was born, he was determined that his daughter would one day inherit his great house, as in had from his father. Of course, his sister Alberta had shown he couldn't be trusted with Saxby Hall, so Chester made sure his wishes were crystal clear in his will, the will of Lord Saxby of Saxby Hall. I, Lord Chester Mandrake Saxby, do heritofully leave the family home, Saxby Hall, into my daughter Stella Amber Saxby. In the event of Stella's untimely passing, the house should be sold and all the money given to the poor. It is my express wish that my sister Alberta Heedy, Dofra Pansy Collins Saxby, should not inherit the house, as he would only gamble it away playing tiddlywinkers. To ensure this does not happen, the deeds of ownership to Saxby Hall had been concealed in the house. Somewhere my sister Alberta will never ever find them. Signed the day of Monday 1st of January 1921, Lord Chester Mandrake Saxby. Lord Saxby kept this the top secret from his sister. Even if she read it, it would be sure to plunge it into terrible rage. Chapter number 4. The Great Bavian Mountain Owl. Now, how did Aunt Alberta have to come with Great Bavian Owl as a pet? I hear you ask. To answer that, I need you to take back in the time once more, to before young Stella was born. I hear you ask. To answer that, I'll need you to take back in time once before young Stella was born. Soon after, Alberta had lost all the family's money at the Tiddlywinkies tables of Monte Carlo. Europe was thrust into war. Chester joined the army as an officer and was awarded a chest full of medals for his bravery on the battlefields of France. Meanwhile, his sister also enlisted and found herself fighting in the forests of Barbia as a machine gunner. Unusually for someone who was British, she chose to fight on the German side. Alberta's only reason for that, as she preferred the German uniforms, as she felt she looked smoking hot in one of the German army's spiked helmets, called Piddlewinks. You can judge for yourself. The one thing she had often done as a child was to steal rare birds' eggs. Alberta knew that the great Bavarian mountain owl was one of the rarest birds in the world. So when she spotted one nesting in the forest where she was posted, she climbed the tree and stole egg out of its nest. Then she sat on it until hatched and named it the little owlet Wanger, after a favorite German composer. Now this is Stella's auntie, awful auntie, sitting, wearing the German uniform and sitting on the egg, the rare egg that she found. The war ended soon after. Alberta had been fighting for the losing side, and the prospect of being sent to a prisoner of war camp did not appeal. So she stole a Zeppelin, one of the huge German military airships. With the little owlet Wanger safe under her arm, she took to the air. At first, all went well. She piloted the Zeppelin hundreds of miles over mainland Europe. However, while flying over the English Channel with the flat cliffs of Dover in sight, disaster struck. The metal spike on her helmet burst a huge gas cell above her. Instantly, the Zeppelin started violently spurting hot air. The airship was really nothing more than a giant balloon after all. It farted its way across the sky at terrific speed before crash landing into the sea with a plop. You can see right here is the airship landing into the sea. Alberta just managed to swim to shore. The owlet, still larger than the average owl, perched perishly on her head. Once safely back at Saxby Hall, she began training the bird. Wanger never knew his real owl parents, but quickly accepted Alberta as his mother. Indeed, the woman would feed the owlet live worms and spiders from her mouth, passing them from lip to bill. As Wanger grew, so did the treats. Soon she would feed him mice and sparrows she would caught in traps. Food became a reward, and over time, Alberta had taught her owl a number of impressive tricks. Fetching her slippers, flying a loop-a-loop in the air. Aerial recognized, a military term she had picked up when fighting in World War I, which meant spying from the air. Dive booming children's kites, stealing old ladies' knickers from the washing lines, dropping stink bombs from the air at villagers' summer fete, delivering a letter of parcel within 100-mile radius, duetting one of her favorite German opera arias. This was painful to listen to, as Alberta was an even worse singer than the owl. To use a special owl, when having an alpy, to swoop on kittens and devour them one gulp, bones and all, to make an apple strudel. The great Bavarian owl, massive ear tumps, brown and grey feathers, yellow eyes, large head, razor-sharp beak, massive breast, pointy talons, weight of 6.5 stones, and a height of approximately 4 feet, which is 120 centimeters tall. You can see here's the owl. Owling, owlcraft, owlstreet, owlstrophy. Call it well you will. Alberta became an expert. Soon she and her beloved Wanger had become famous in owling circuses. Even though started doing photo shoots for specialist boards on prey publications such as My Owl, Just Owls, Owls Only, Mature Owls, and Owling Monthly, the magazine for owls and their admirers. Once I had even appeared for owls and their admirers. Once they even appeared together on the cover of Tweety Woo. even very much to Hello, the magazine of the owl world. Inside there were 12 pages at home within photographs and a lengthy interview where they talked about how they met and hopes for their future together. Of course, Wanger's answers were all in squawks. Alberta and Wanger. Wanger and Alberta. It was a very close relationship. A pair travelled everywhere together on Alberta's motorcycle with Wanger in the sidecar. Both had matching leather flying helmets and goggles. That more unusual still that Alberta and Wanger had also shared a bed. When Stella would bring her aunt a nightly glass of sherry, Alberta and Wanger would tucked up together in matched striped pajamas reading the day's newspaper. It was a bizarre sight. Another time, Stella heard the two of them splashing around in the bath together. It wasn't natural, it wasn't right, and definitely couldn't be hygienic, especially not for the owl. However, this closeness between man and beast was not without purpose. For all this time, Aunt Alberta was training her owl to obey every command, even to do unspeakable evil. Number 5, mummified. Bye guys, I'll read you number 5, mummified, later this day. So make sure to stick around and subscribe to the video. Let's see if we can get to 500 likes. Let's go. Peace.